48. The Civil Revolution, Part 6. Voltaire has been publicised as a great sceptic and wit. It is certainly clear that he was cynical about Christianity and the Church, although he had received only good from the Jesuits who educated him. He found cannibalism more reasonable than Christianity. In fact, almost anything which was natural was, for Voltaire, more reasonable than a religion which posited a supernatural order as prior to the natural, and God as Lord over all. Statism was thus the logical order for Voltaire. For him, Louis XIV made more sense than Jesus Christ. Voltaire was a facile and superficial writer, but he made a great impact on his time and on many minds since. The reason is a religious one. Alexander Murray has written about the broken images, T.S. Eliot's term, which mark our time. Medieval Christian society is our ancestor. It has bequeathed us many images, broken and unbroken. And among the broken ones is a view of nature which admits, interleaved with those natural laws which we see day after day bring our jet aircraft safely down on their radar tracks, the direct concern and intervention of the old God of Jacob. Exactly. God's government is no longer seen as the very present fact. Men no longer find strength in the inescapability of God's providence. One result is cowardice. If men are not afraid of God, they will be afraid of men. In June and July 1988, Ford and Andrea Schwartz of San Jose, California, circulated a petition which asked a religious hospital belonging to a Christian church either to cease practicing abortions or to drop their Christian name. Some people were afraid to sign. Thus, an athletic coach, ostensibly Christian, felt it was unwise for him to sign and handed it to his wife, who trembled and refused. David says of the wicked, "There is no fear of God before his eyes." Psalm 36, verse 1. And Paul cites this as descriptive of the ungodly. Romans chapter 3, verse 18. A second result is statism. When men are not afraid of God, they are afraid of the state, because it is the power they believe in and know. Their hope, then, is the state. Russell observed in 1896, "We are passing through a period of transition, the usual excuse, and have not quite, perhaps, discarded the old beliefs of the Enlightenment, that happiness can be secured by act of parliament, and that the highest exercise of the human reason lies either in the election of annual officials or in the discovery of some fresh material convenience." Man and the state were the basic realities, behind which faith was the waning of belief in the God of Scripture. For Ralph Waldo Emerson, who influenced Friedrich Nietzsche, the state as the present reality had to educate the wise men. In his Essay on Politics, Emerson saw the future in terms of the wise man, singular, whom Nietzsche called the Superman. Said Emerson, "With the appearance of the wise man, the state expires. The wise man is the state. He is value. His relation to men is angelic." In such a world review, the summum bonum, the highest good, is either man or the state. These are the two, quote, realities, end quote, because God has been denied the status of reality. There is thus no Jacob's ladder, no governance and communion between heaven and earth. For the civil revolution, there is no law beyond the state. If value comes from either man or the state, then on either level, the governing factor is, my will be done. Both the individual and the state demand the recognition of their sovereign rights. Each class in the state seeks its sovereign rights at the expense of all others. Without God's law, self-will becomes the ruling premise in every sphere. Society shifts its emphasis from moral duties to civil rights. All classes seek advantage, not justice, although their advantages are promoted as justice. Every man's life and every society has a centre of gravity which is the ground force in all its being. The centre of gravity can be economic advantage, pleasure, racial concerns, and a variety of other motives. It can also be the triune God. Since the Enlightenment in particular, the centre of gravity in the Western world, and now all over the world, has shifted from God to man and from church to state. The world has grown smaller. For many men, there is now no heaven and no hell. Because there is, for them, no God whose justice and law absolutely governs all things, there is no appeal against man and the state. The statist philosopher tells men, as he presents them with his humanistic world, this is all you are going to get. There is no justice beyond man and the state, and usually too little in man and the state. The quest for advantage becomes a denial of justice, because justice denies all privileges in favour of God's law. Because all justice comes from the triune God and is set forth in his law word, there can be no monopoly on justice by any human agency, because man is not the source of justice. For men to arrogate the execution of justice to themselves is to assume that they alone are the instruments of justice. In earlier eras, a variety of courts, civil, ecclesiastical, commercial, and so on, all dealt with justice in their realm under God. The state is in process of claiming a monopoly right to dispense justice. There are, however, still some courts of law maintained by the more orthodox Christians and Jews to administer justice to all who come. It has been observed of the Jewish courts that their basic premise is this. The concept behind it is that there can be no justice without godliness. This is, of course, the premise of biblical law, of Moses, Jesus Christ, and Paul. But this is precisely the premise set aside by the civil revolution. Godliness is not a requirement of either judges or juries, and no longer a qualification of witnesses. It is assumed that the key requirement for the administration of justice is not godliness, but education and reason. By education is meant essentially a humanistic education. This leads to an ironic fact. All laws are simply enacted morality. They are the ideas of right and wrong held by the legislators. At the same time, morality is no longer a qualification for office. Only in very limited spheres is morality operative. The public official must be a thorough equalitarian in sexual and racial matters. The result is injustice and Machiavelli's world. The Italian city-states of Machiavelli's day were without either legitimacy or justice. As a result, the rulers ruled by brute force and without justice. Force and fraud marked their civil orders. Parkes rightly noted. Since Machiavelli was attempting to find remedies for a disintegration which has fortunately been a rare occurrence in Western history, and since the terms in which he stated the problem made any solution impossible, his work is much less important than has often been supposed. Since Parks wrote, we have moved into a Machiavellian era, but Parks was right. The terms in which Machiavelli stated the problem made a solution impossible. Spain had to impose an answer on Italy. We are in a like situation today. The civil revolution goes from one crisis to another, and the deterioration of culture and society since World War II is dramatic. All the answers proposed by our humanistic statists only aggravate the problem. The civil revolution has no answer because it is a basic part of the problem.